Has Brandon Ingram finally found his new home with the Denver Nuggets? New rumors suggest that he, in addition to Zach LaVine, is heavily on the radar for the Nuggets to land on the trade market. Let's see if that is the right move for Denver. I'm Trevor Lane. This is the Basketball Bulletin. Make sure you subscribe right here to the channel. Turn on those notifications as well. All right, so here's the situation. This is according to Ian Begley, who does a great job covering the league, as well as the Knicks, said regarding the Athletic report on the Nuggets' search for a scorer, I've heard Brandon Ingram is another player among the group on their radar. For what it's worth, the clearest path for Denver to make a trade for a big scorer with a significant salary would be to include Michael Porter Jr. in the deal. Well, he's absolutely right on that front. Being willing to give up Michael Porter Jr., which there was a report from yesterday about the Denver Nuggets and them being willing to potentially swap Michael Porter Jr. in a deal that would net them Zach LaVine. There were a few other players that were in the mix there: Jordan Clarkson, Jordan Poole, a number of guys that were listed. Now, the main goal for the Nuggets is to add more firepower to their roster, to add somebody else who can create a shot for themselves, and that's part of the problem that this team has. Right now, you've got with their roster construction as it is and the way they have slipped a bit in the NBA's Western Conference. You can see right now the Denver Nuggets currently sitting as the 5 seed. They've got Nikola Jokic. Maybe he's going to get another MVP. They want to try to maximize his window here. And if you're going to do that, you need another player that can create a shot for themselves so that burden isn't all on Jokic, isn't all on Jamal Murray. That's a lot to put on those guys. You go and you look at the assists for the team. Right now, it's Nikola Jokic, Russell Westbrook, Jamal Murray, and then a huge drop-off. You just don't have other creators, really, in this offense. And specifically, when we get to Russell Westbrook, he's done some really good things. So let's give him credit. He's done some good things for the Denver Nuggets this year. But can you trust him in crunch time in the playoffs? It would be nice to have another creator where if Russ happens to be having an off night, you've got somebody else you can turn to. And in that way, I think Brandon Ingram would actually check the box even better than Zach LaVine would. Not that he's not without his own challenges. So let's take a look at that. How could the Denver Nuggets actually get Brandon Ingram? Does he make sense? Is this the solution to the Denver Nuggets problems? Let's get to that in just a moment. But first, quick shout out to our sponsor, and that is Prize Picks. Look, they do a phenomenal job. Prize Picks is so much. That's the bottom line. Prize Picks is fun. It's fun to go play daily fantasy with Prize Picks. If you use our promo code Bulletin, you get our special deal. It is a great one. What you do is you get a guaranteed $50 once you play $5 in lineups. So go to prizepicks.com, use the link in the description down below, and then use the code Bulletin to get $50 once you play $5 in lineups. I'm going to make a few quick picks here just for fun while we're doing this. Nick, I mean, this is easy. The free square, the Christmas free square, Nikola Jokic, we're talking about him anyway. 0.5 points. Yep. Yeah, I think I'm going to hit more on that one. Then we're going to go take a look. Karl Anthony Towns back in Minnesota. The rebounds, these are their hot picks right now. They're ones that are generating the most interest. Karl Anthony Towns back in Minnesota, 16 rebounds and assists. He has been doing some work on the boards for the Knicks right now. I don't know, revenge game narrative. Yeah, let's be honest. Revenge game narrative. Let's go with it. I'm going to go more there. And then John Collins against Detroit. That one's interesting to me. You know what, though? You know what? I like Colin Sexton. Smooth scorer, pretty efficient. Have a hard time turning down Alper. Ooh, Sengun against a really good. See, there's so many that I want to do. I'm going to do both of them. I'm going to do Colin Sexton and Alper and Sengun. Yes, sometimes we'll take less. Got to take that under every now and then. But, yeah, we'll give that one a go. So if you guys want to play Prize Picks, go check it out. Again, use that promo code Bulletin. If you agree with me with my selections, you guys can play along, but go check them out. Again, use the link in the description down below, and you get a guaranteed $50 once you play $5 in lineups with that code Bulletin. Go check out Prize Picks, daily fantasy sports made easy. All right, let's get into this situation here with the Denver Nuggets. How do you ultimately land Brandon Ingram, who's sitting right around $36 million? The challenge for the Nuggets, it's more than just how do we get Brandon Ingram, because financially, the money-wise, it's actually not all that difficult to land him. Michael Porter Jr., his salary matches up very, very nicely with BI. Now, the Nuggets are a tier 1 apron team. That means they can't send out less salary than they take back. They have to send out more salary than they take back in a trade. But Michael Porter Jr. as a centerpiece, you're just not getting there with anybody else. I mean, unless you want to give up Aaron Gordon, but look, he's not trade eligible this season because of when he did his extension. So unless you decide suddenly you want to come off of Jamal Murray or Nikola Jokic, which you're not going to do that, it has to be MPJ if they want Brandon Ingram. There's no other option. There's no way to stack up enough other salaries to get that done. So let's say they're going to do this. What would this look like if it's going to be the Denver Nuggets? And I think there is some rationale here from the Pelicans side too. We know the Pels, they would like to move Brandon Ingram. And the reason for that is because they don't want to be the team to pay him his next contract. That's where I'd be careful if I'm Denver. You know, Michael Porter Jr., his contract at $36 million, and then it moves forward from there. It's not a bad deal. In fact, here, let's take a quick peek at this while we're on it. It's not a bad contract at all. But if I am Denver, I got to be careful because Michael Porter Jr., 36 million, 38 million, 40 million. Brandon Ingram is rumored to want a deal starting at 50 on his next contract. There is more cost certainty here with Michael Porter Jr. I think that Brandon Ingram is a better player than Michael Porter Jr. I think Brandon Ingram makes the Denver Nuggets a better team. He's going to cost them significantly more, though. So that's the challenge. If you're Denver, beyond just the injury history that comes with Brandon Ingram, are you comfortable with giving him that salary? We can talk as well about the way the NBA's new CBA is set up. It's really there to try to limit the amount of max contracts you can have, to try to get rid of super teams in a way and really encourage more 1- and 2-star roster builds. The Denver Nuggets, if you go and you get Brandon Ingram and you surrender a significant asset like Michael Porter Jr. to get him, that is saying you are willing to be the team to pay him on his next contract. You're not giving. If you aren't sure that you want to pay Brandon Ingram, you aren't trading Michael Porter Jr. for him. There's no way in hell you trade him for a half-a-year rental because BI can be a free agent this summer. He walks away. I mean, I know there's not a lot of places to walk to, but even in a sign and trade, you're probably not getting equal value to what you're giving up here. So that's the challenge here for the Denver Nuggets and really anybody else that is trying to trade for Brandon Ingram, is that if you do a deal like this where you give up something significant, and you can see the trade doesn't work right now because, again, the Denver Nuggets are not sending out enough salary, but let's throw in, I don't know, let's just for fun here, DeAndre Jordan. There you go. Minimum salary, Michael Porter Jr., DeAndre Jordan, off you go. And Brandon Ingram winds up with the Denver Nuggets. So if I am the Nuggets, I have to be sure that I want to be the team to pay Brandon Ingram as next contract. And right now, the NBA has said no, everybody has said we don't want to be that team. That's why he's still a Pelican right now. So if I'm Denver, I got to be careful with this. I need to know, what is it that Brandon Ingram wants on his next deal? Am I willing to pay that? Because there is potential, as much as Denver is looking at Zach LaVine right now too, who is very much a distressed asset. He's playing fantastic basketball, but the market says he's not worth his contract, so the Chicago Bulls have been unable to move him. Brandon Ingram could be the exact same thing. Brandon Ingram is going to be the next Zach LaVine if he gets what he wants contract-wise. That his team will not be able to move him. If you give Brandon Ingram $50 million and he's not a tier 1 A or B player, if he's more of a, maybe he's your third best player on a really good team, if that's what he is, teams will not be interested in taking him. So you got to be careful, because if you give him what he wants, he's going to be stuck. You will not be able to get him off your roster without sacrificing something significant. That's reality for the Denver. And the same is true with Zach LaVine. I said it on the Zach LaVine video. If it doesn't work with Zach LaVine, he's stuck. And the Nuggets are going to have to give up something valuable to move him if it doesn't work. The same could be true of Brandon Ingram unless you're able to negotiate a reasonable contract with him. But let's face it, if the Pelicans could negotiate a reasonable contract with him, they would just keep him. So that's the challenge with a situation like this. Now, again, I do think he makes a lot of sense for the Nuggets. Michael Porter Jr., does he make sense for the Pelicans? Well, yes, frankly. I mean, he's locked up on a much longer term and smaller salary than BI. I think Michael Porter Jr. essentially has the salary that the Nuggets or the Pelicans would like Brandon Ingram to have. The only question is, do you have some skill set duplication there? Herb Jones, you're building around Trey Murphy III. Now you add Michael Porter Jr. to the mix. I believe in today's NBA, you can't have too many wings who can shoot the basketball. And Porter Jr. is more of a movement shooter than those two guys. But it's a fair question still. Even if they needed to, though, I think this would be very easy from the Pelicans' perspective to turn this into a 3-team trade and flip Porter Jr. somewhere else. Not every team in the NBA is going to want his salary, but I don't think they would have too much trouble if they decide, no, we've already kind of got our wings, if they were to want to turn this into a 3-team trade. But the bottom line, very clearly, the Denver Nuggets are looking for more shot creation, more ball handling, somebody who can run the offense and provide some scoring, and they're looking for it in places that right now other teams are saying we're not interested. So they're looking for distressed assets. They're looking to find value because the rest of the market has said we don't want this guy, not at the current price tag. That's true of Zach LaVine, who they're looking at. That's true now of Brandon Ingram. It could pay off for the Nuggets in a big, big way because once again, Brandon Ingram, well, right now he's injured. If he's healthy, he's a better player than Michael Porter Jr. You're getting an upgrade. If Zach LaVine is healthy, I think he gives you more than what Michael Porter Jr. is giving you. The problem is you have to take on Zach LaVine's contract. You have to give Brandon Ingram his next contract. But that's also why you can probably get these guys without having to give up significant draft capital, which the Denver Nuggets simply don't have. So from that sense, as a buyer on the market, as a team who currently their standing in the Western Conference is simply not good enough, it makes sense for the Denver Nuggets to be exploring trades for these kind of guys because their market value is low enough to where Denver can get them, even though they have a very limited amount of future draft capital to give up. It is the path for them. That said, it's not without risk. There's a reason why the market has said we don't want these guys, because if it goes wrong, if it does not work, they're going to be stuck with these guys. Now, Denver can argue, well, we're already paying 3 years on Michael Porter Jr. If it doesn't work out for him, we're in a similar situation. Let's say we give Brandon Ingram a new 2-year deal. He's been rumored to be willing to take 2 years or less years anyway on his deal in general. Or Zach LaVine, same thing. He's got a couple more years after this year. If you're willing to look at it that way, that you're already paying Michael Porter Jr. during those years anyway, so you're not changing that much. You're just paying a little bit more for Brandon Ingram or a little bit more for Zach LaVine. Let's face it, a lot more for Brandon Ingram or for Zach LaVine. That's one way that the Nuggets could talk themselves into being the team to bite on Brandon Ingram or Zach LaVine when right now the market is saying, no, thank you. We're not interested. But everybody, let me know in the comment section. Is this what the Denver Nuggets should be doing? What is the risk here? How risky is this? And should the Nuggets be willing to absorb the risk of taking players that, for good reason, the rest of the NBA has said, no, thank you, we're out on? Let me know in the comments section down below and go check out our latest video all about the Zach LaVine situation. I get more in-depth into Zach LaVine himself on the previous video. So I'm going to put that one up right now for you guys to go check out.